We will start soon. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to this side event of the Korea-Africa Summit entitled Korea-Africa Health Partnership, Enhancing Vaccine Access and Health Security in Africa. This event is co-organized by the International Vaccine Institute, so the IVI, the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency, KDCA, and the Africa Center for Disease Control, Africa CDC. My name is Vincent Canoë, and I am from the International Vaccine Institute, headquartered here in Seoul, Korea. And I'm honored to serve as moderator for today. So we have a distinguished lineup of speakers and presentation who will introduce their collaborative health program in Africa. And concerning the logistic, if you require simultaneous interpretation, please use the device that should be in front of you, and you can select 1 for English, 2 for Korean, and 3 pour le français. Without further ado, let's begin with the opening remarks. So first, I would like to invite Dr. Jerome Kim, Director General of the IVI, to deliver his welcome remarks.
Good afternoon. Your Excellencies, esteemed guests, and distinguished speakers, it's my honor to welcome you to this important event, the Korea-Africa Health Partnerships, Enhancing Vaccine Access and Health Security in Africa. First of all, I would like to thank the Korea Centers for Disease Control, the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency, and the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention for co-hosting this event on the sidelines of the 2024 Korea-Africa Summit. For those of you who are not familiar with IVI, we are a treaty-based international organization established by the United Nations Development Program in 1997 with a mission to discover, develop, and deliver safe, effective, and affordable vaccines for global health. IVI is now working very hard on a new collaborative program, which we call Advancing Vaccine End-to-End Capabilities in Africa, or the AVAC Africa initiative. And I'll be explaining AVAC Africa to you in greater detail later. As with any intense collaborative effort, success will ultimately hinge on the quality of our partners, and we are very proud and very fortunate to have exceptional partners both here in Korea and in Africa. Korea has long been a committed leader in the global fight against infectious diseases. Its decision to serve as the host country for IVI and the decades-long development cooperation initiatives of KOICA in Africa stand as a testament to this enduring commitment. Through its support for Gavi, CEPI, UNITAID, the Wright Foundation, the Global Training Hub for Biomanufacturing Program, and the Global Disease Eradication Fund, the Korean government has made substantial investments in global health infrastructure, capabilities building, and vaccination in low and middle income countries. These initiatives have not only enhanced healthcare delivery, but have empowered local communities, providing them with the tools and know-how necessary to support and protect the health of their people. The global health community is fortunate to have the leadership of the Africa CDC, which has been instrumental in driving continental cooperation and coordination, particularly in the realm of building self-reliance in vaccines. Its efforts in strengthening health security, improving disease surveillance, harmonizing regulatory authorities, and facilitating a rapid response to pandemics and outbreaks have been invaluable. The partnerships fostered by Africa CDC, including those with IVI and Korea, are critical in building a unified and robust defense against infectious diseases. Today's event is not just a platform to discuss these partnerships, but also a celebration of the collaborative spirit that brings us together. It is a reminder that on our shared planet, the health of one region affects the health of the world. Through today's event, let us reaffirm our commitment to creating self-reliant and resilient health ecosystems in Africa that will ensure a healthier and safer world for generations to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kim. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Youngmi Ji, Commissioner of the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency, to deliver our remarks.
Good afternoon. It is a pleasure and privilege to host this side event together with IVI in Africa CDC to welcome many distinguished guests from African countries on the occasion of first ever Korea-Africa Summit. I'd like to warmly welcome all the distinguished delegates and excellencies attending today's event under the theme of Korea-Africa Partnership Enhancing Vaccine Accessibility and Health Security in Africa. I want to express my special appreciation to excellencies, ministers from African countries, and also want to thank IVI and Africa CDC for co-hosting today's event. The cooperation between Korea and Africa began with the establishment of bilateral diplomatic relations in 1960s and has expanded into various economic fields, including minerals, energy, agriculture, and defense. It is now evolving into a cooperation on global agendas such as health security and climate change. Especially, I'd like to acknowledge a crucial role of Africa CDC in providing technical support and vaccine supplies to African region during COVID-19 pandemic and strengthening African laboratory network, enhancing member states' infectious disease surveillance and diagnostic capabilities, aiming to locally manufacture 60% of all vaccines used in African continent by 2040. International Vaccine Institute is the first international organization established in Korea 27 years ago with full support from Korean government, and we are happy to witness IVI's leadership and commitment in every step of vaccine value chain, especially focusing on African countries under the leadership of Dr. Jerome Kim. I believe we are all pleased with the historic agreement on amendment to improve the current International Health Regulation 2005 on the last day of the 77th World Health Assembly. With this agreement, we will work more closely to bolster our ability to detect and respond to future outbreaks and pandemics. Korean government will make full efforts to strengthen IHR core capacities in African countries. An operation of WHO Global Biomanufacturing Workforce Training Hub is one of Korean government efforts to support local manufacturing capacity of vaccines and medical products in Global South. The goal of Africa CDC very much aligns with that of Korea DCA, as I discussed with Dr. Kasea's visit to Korea last year, as well as last week during the World Health Assembly. In May last year, the KDCA established National Multi-Ministerial Pandemic Preparedness and Response Plan to secure public health and medical resources, including workforce, to develop domestic mRNA vaccines and further strengthening international cooperation. Korea DCA will work closely with countries to enhance national and regional capacities on the public health emergency preparedness and response with Global Health Security Coordination Office, which was opened at the end of last year. As a member of GHSA steering group, Korea will continue to play an active role to enhance global health security with countries and partners. Our joint efforts by Korea DCA and Africa CDC will create a synergy with IVI's initiative, such as new AVAC Africa project to enhance Africa's local capabilities for vaccine research and manufacturing, and various cooperative projects with KDCA. Building on the collaboration with Africa CDC during COVID-19 period through virtual meetings and expert seminars, KDCA signed an MOU in April 2022 and grant agreement in November last year for setting the modality of the capacity building project between KDCA and Africa CDC. In this context, today's event with the theme of enhancing vaccine accessibility and health security in Africa by KDCA, and Africa CDC and IVI is very timely and significant within the framework of first ever Korea Africa Summit. The last week, I had the pleasure of joining WHO's side event on celebrating 50 years of EPI during the 77th World Health Assembly together with Gavi, UNICEF, and other key partners. This year's theme of World Health Assembly was All for Health and Health for All. It is very clear that vaccines and immunization is one of the key pillars we all need to invest for the vision of health for all. The KDCA will continue to collaborate with Africa CDC and IVI to successfully advance vaccine development and access in preparation for new pandemics and strengthen global health security. Once again, I welcome all the distinguished guests attending this event and look forward to very close collaboration between KDCA and Africa CDC and member states and IVI. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. G. I would like now to invite Mr. Nobel Kabuhiro, Head of Partnership and Grant Management at Africa CDC, to deliver his remarks.
Excellencies, ministers, Excellencies, ambassadors representing various countries, Dr. Yang Mi-ji, Commissioner, KDCA, Dr. Jerome Kim, Director General of IVI, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I bring greetings from His Excellency Dr. Jean Kaseya, Director General of Africa CDC, who unfortunately could not be present today. He has delegated his representation to the Deputy Director General, Dr. Raji Tajuddin, who is currently attending other summit meetings, but will join us shortly. Dr. Raji has requested that I deliver this opening speech on his behalf. I am honored to join our esteemed partners, KDCA and IVI, in co-hosting this crucial discussion on enhancing vaccine access and health security in Africa. The COVID-19 pandemic was a stark reminder for Africa as we found ourselves struggling to access life-saving vaccines. This inspired our Africa Union Head of State to establish the Partnership for African Vaccine Manufacturing, PVM, in 2021, with the ambitious and bold goal of enabling the African vaccine manufacturing industry to develop, produce, and supply over 60% of the continent vaccine doses by 2040. Since then, we have been working tirelessly to strengthen the vaccine ecosystem in Africa. Allow me to highlight some key enablers. First, support the national regulatory authorities. Successful vaccine manufacturing in Africa requires robust regulatory system to ensure safe and effective vaccine. For example, South Africa has received $700,000 worth of equipment to enhance its regulatory capabilities, supporting local manufacturers. Second, talent development. Over 130 African trainees have been trained in biomanufacturing courses. Thanks to our collaboration with the Korean government and IVI, approximately 75 trainees have participated in biomanufacturing courses at Global Training Hub since 2022. Supply chain. Sustainable vaccine manufacturing necessitates an uninterrupted supply of raw materials. We have collaborated with CEPI and other stakeholders to localize ingredient manufacturing in Africa, proposing strategic intervention such as, first, localizing the production of key materials, second, establishing a regional access and supply consortium, third, supplying and harmonizing trade, regulations, and policies. We are currently working with partners to form a working group to implement this intervention, ensuring a steady supply chain of input materials. Fourth, technology transfer. Africa has significantly benefited from technology transfer, particularly from Korea. These partnerships have been instrumental in advancing our vaccine manufacturing capabilities. Building on these successes, Africa CDC has been supporting a comprehensive approach to vaccine manufacturing, focusing on supply by assisting manufacturers in producing quality and affordable vaccine, demand by leveraging Africa CDC influence to gather political will and secure commitment from member states for offtake guarantees. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Africa Union Summit 2024 mandated Africa CDC to establish an African Pooled Procurement Mechanism, APPM, in collaboration with Afreximbank, UNICA, and UNICEF. We are designing the APPM with three key phases. First, startup phase, which consists of procuring a limited number of products for a few member states. Second, consolidation phase, which consists of expanding the range of products. Third, maturation phase, which will include a wide range of products for as many member states as possible. To ensure market guarantee, Africa CDC hosted a high-level ministerial event before the WHO in Geneva, where over 40 African ministers of health committed to the Buy African initiative, ensuring offtake guarantees and predictable demand for Africa-made vaccine. In conclusion, today's event exemplify our productive partnership with KDCA and IVI, working together to advance Africa priorities for equitable access to vaccine and health products. Health security necessitates self-reliance, especially during crisis. Africa CDC remains committed in its pursuit of manufacturing 60% of the vaccine needed by 2040. As we convene on these sidelines of the Korea-Africa Summit, we eagerly anticipate further collaboration with our partners in Korea to bolster effort across the continent, involving manufacturers, AU member states, and other key enablers for sustainable vaccine manufacturing. Africa CDC is committed to win-win partnership to advance local manufacturing and look forward to our discussion this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kabuiro. Today, we are honored by the presence of dignitaries and representatives from Africa who will now share their remarks. At this time, it is my honor to invite the Honorable Ivan Butera, Minister of State for Health of the Republic of Rwanda, for his remarks.
Thank you, Vincent. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, honorable ministers, leaders, Dr. Jerome, our host, the Republic of Korea. Thank you so much for having us. It's a privilege for us to convene into this great country that is the Republic of Korea. So I won't take so much time. It's just to thank everyone, the organizers, for organizing this event, Korean government, CDC, Africa CDC, IVI. In Rwanda, we are proud to be part of this journey of vaccine manufacturing, contributing in different ways and doing all the right partnerships that will lead these efforts to fruition. A few initiatives that are ongoing already. You might know that Rwanda is the host of AVAC Africa and will collaborate with everyone to advance the agenda on the continent level. Allow me to just point out a few things that we think collaboratively we need to work together for global health security in that sense, tying the mission of what we are discussing here today. One is the importance to invest in health systems to be able to understand really the changing epidemiology and the needs of the people across our world, and a lot of efforts to be conducted in Africa, because really understanding what we are dealing with is the first step that inform other steps such as investment in research and development for developing these new molecules that we are talking about. Capacity of enhancing clinical trials across the continent will prove also to be very important for the good of the world. Another aspect is the regulatory affairs side. Some improvements are being made on the continent with the establishment of the African Medicine Agency that we are also happy to host in Kigali, Rwanda, to kind of harmonize our regulatory system and to strengthen it. It's going to be very important. So it's advancing, countries are ratifying, we are into the operationalization phase of it. So regulatory frameworks also is another area, I think, of collaboration with different stakeholders here so that we can level up the game on the continent. Of course, now discovery is important also, but also supply chain is important. It's one thing to have products, it's another thing to be able to reach them to the people who need it. So I think also another area that we can collaborate in, all of us together, is how do we strengthen our supply chain systems across the continent and the world. And of course, there's an important part of the market shaping around it, really understanding also how do we shape our markets to be able to respond to the needs of our people. So mine was just to thank you for all your efforts that you're putting into this important agenda that really is at the center of the dignity of people, to be able to prevent some of these diseases. But also vaccines are playing a role now in therapeutics, increasingly so. The research is showing that. So I think we also need to embark on that. So thank you so much again, the organizers. And Rwanda is committed to advance this agenda. It takes it at heart, and all the other aspects and subsets that I've talked about, and we are open to collaborate with our brothers and sisters. I also like to congratulate our brothers that have joined, the Republic of Kenya also, that have joined the AVAC team. So we congratulate you on that, and we wish everyone well. Again, thank you also to the great people of the Republic of Korea for convening this, Africa CDC and IVI for having us here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Now it's my honor to invite His Excellency Dr. Austin Dembi, Minister of Health and Sanitation from Sierra Leone.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Sorry I wasn't on the agenda, but I'm really pleased to be here today. I want to thank the organizers for this important meeting. I was in another meeting and I realized how important this is, and I want to be present here. I come from Sierra Leone, and in Sierra Leone we had one of the worst Ebola outbreaks in West Africa in 2014. We were not prepared for it, and it was a bit of a shock for us. We had nearly 14,000 cases of urban transmission of Ebola, and nearly 4,000 deaths associated with it. We learned our lesson from that. The second time Ebola showed up in neighboring Guinea in 2021, there were only about 23 cases, and we were able to shut it down early. The reason for that was having the knowledge of health security, ability to detect early and to respond aggressively and work with solidarity in the host nation. What we had available to us was vaccines that we didn't have in 2014. And us as neighboring countries were able to make a commitment that first we'll have solidarity with Guinea, second, that we'll vaccinate all of our frontline healthcare workers, third, we'll have a commitment that we will have no cases of Ebola in our country, and if one showed up, we'll contain it immediately. we were able to achieve that in 2021. The message there is having an aggressive health security agenda and having vaccines as part of the arsenal is really critical in us being able to control epidemics in the continent. We saw with the COVID-19, first the lessons we learned from Ebola were very, very effective in allowing us to prepare for it. Whilst other countries were debating hand hygiene and social distancing, we were well ahead of the curve in Sierra Leone. And at the end of the COVID-19, we had only about less than 200 cases of COVID and less than 7,000 cases and less than 200 deaths. Again, for me, the critical piece of that is we have what it takes to be able to prevent, to detect early, and to respond. It is important as we do this that we have vaccines available for us. In Sierra Leone, we struggle a lot with the COVID-19 vaccine, its availability. When we finally got the vaccine, we were able to achieve over 80% of vaccination of all of the eligibles within a year. It shows that if it's available, we will use it effectively. So this meeting is really important. We're very pleased that the African CDC is coordinating the effort for the continent. We're very pleased that we have partners like what we have here in the Republic of Korea. And it's one world, it's our world. We need to work together in a collaborative fashion because a problem in Sierra Leone, if not handled properly, will be a problem for the world. And so this is a meeting of solidarity, and I really want to thank you all for convening it. And I look forward to the deliberations where we will support each other in our effort to prevent. And if it shows up, to be able to contain it. And as we wait, to prevent and control, that we prepare effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Dembi. Now it's my honor to invite the Honorable Monica Jane Musenolo Masanza, Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation of the Republic of Uganda.
Good afternoon to all our hosts, the Korean hosts, Institute for Vaccine Development, the Partnership for Health, CDC, and all colleague ministers from the different African nations. It's a privilege for me to be here on behalf of the government of Uganda, a Minister for Science, Technology and Innovation, which is the ministry in my country responsible for vaccine research, development. It's really well known that every 40 to 50, 60 years, there has been so much accumulation of new knowledge and technology development that the world undergoes an acceleration in most areas of health and also technology and development where there is a massive change in approaches. And I think the change for vaccines and many other drugs was signaled by the COVID. And we need to take a lot of lessons in the after-COVID ecosystem, which has emerged, and such that we put to use that knowledge which has emerged since 2021 and up to now. And a few pointers that I would like to raise as we talk about accelerating access to vaccines, especially for Africa. One is that we have had a lot of acceleration in technology, and that technology is no longer the same technology as when vaccines were first invented. Because much as there have been development of vaccines, the view of Africa's access to vaccines has remained that of Africa not able to manage systems, Africa not able to develop safely vaccines, Africa not able to afford, Africa having a smaller population and not a large enough market. I think those myths are now overtaken, and we need to think through this even as we remake or reinvent the systems for distribution, for manufacturing. I have seen also a shift in a very, very important factor, and that is access to information. There's a lot of access to information, not only technological information, but popular information. So many young scientists in these African nations can have access to the same publications, to the same paper. The people manufacturing technologies for vaccine development are now many, and so many African nations can access technology for manufacturing, for research, and we are able to now assemble. So as we rethink, because my view has been that we are thinking about expanding what has been ongoing. I'm afraid that we need to sit and rethink and reinvent, because this is going to be a new revolution. So some of the key factors that have come dictate now that we look again at how we invent, how we distribute, how we accelerate, how we do research. In Uganda, we have taken an approach that African nations are able to do end-to-end vaccine research, development, manufacturing, and distribution. And we are developing those capacities. And so we are looking for partnerships that enable these African nations to understand vaccines from beginning to end. Because most of the accessible information about vaccines has been the distribution, the cold chain. How about the R&D, the beginning, the innovation? We have seen also a big effect on vaccine use, because we can have vaccines, but if we cannot use, the change in communications technology means that African populations have access to information. The information may be accurate, it may not be accurate. During COVID, we've seen a duality of lack of vaccines and massive expiries of vaccine stocks because the populations refused to take the vaccines. So we need to make sure that the access is addressing those things. And basically, they are matters of trust. We need to make sure that we address this, that the African scientists can understand the vaccines from beginning to end. So in Uganda, we have developed, we use the example of COVID, we have developed system for research from beginning, such that we can discuss with our counterparts at the same footing of knowledge, for clinical trials, for pilot manufacturing, and for mass production. And so we would like to seek collaboration with the African brothers and sisters, as well as the Korean government, of course coordinated by CDC, to see which African nations are championing what. And that will help us to build the collaboration. The need for human capital development is critical. Human capital development. The need for infrastructure. We are setting up what we call a biosciences research center. The need for adequate policies and regulatory systems, and building an ecosystem which will help the populations not throw out this very vital tool called vaccines, because we have seen that rejection of vaccines massively moving in the population. And with social media, everybody can speak to anybody. And so as we champion vaccine manufacturing, we need to make sure that the access but not only access in terms of a vaccine being available, but in terms of individuals being willing to actually take the vaccine and the openness with the information. Because hitherto, a vaccine came as a shrouded, secret, high-tech, made somewhere. Right now, people want to know what is in those vaccines. And so we would like to champion, we would like to put this forward, that we work in partnership, enable African nations to build systems end-to-end to produce these vaccines. The last point is the point of cost. Of course, vaccines developed, they were mystical, there were few manufacturing centers. The issue of cost is what makes it prohibitive. Can we come up with technologies that make vaccine production cheaper? Not just enabling those countries to afford the expensive technology, but making the production itself cheaper, even as we maintain safety. I pray that we discuss these issues during this summit. Thank you very much once again for inviting us to be part. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I would like now to invite Dr. Michael Luciola, CEO of Kenya BioVax Institute, with a message from the Minister of Health of Kenya.
Good afternoon, and thank you, organizers, for this opportunity to speak. Allow me to ride on the protocols already observed. I'm here to talk about the importance of partnerships, health partnerships, and to give the Kenya experience in as far as this is concerned. So very briefly, I just mentioned a few points along three lines. One is process, two is people, and the other one is product. So when you look at process, the experience that we've had in Kenya, at the Kenya BioVax Institute, working very closely with our partners, has been around financing and also about building the physical infrastructure to set up a vaccines manufacturing facility. On financing, I'd like to mention the important partnership that we're already building with the Korea Exim Bank through the EDCF opportunity. But also secondly, as you may have heard, the Kenya BioVax Institute, the Ministry of Health in Kenya has had an important engagement with the World Bank to help fund the initial steps towards building fill and finish capability. So that's importance of partnerships when it comes to developing capability in manufacturing. Secondly, around the process is about physical infrastructure. We know how important the right physical infrastructure is when it comes to putting down the filling lines, setting down the physical, the enabling civil works, mechanical works. A lot of engineering is required. And I'm happy to note here that we've been talking with a very key partner from Korea, the SK Bioscience, SK Engineering, and I'm happy to note that the CEO of SK Bioscience is here with us today. Thank you. So that partnership when it comes to engineering, that partnership when it comes to physical infrastructure is really important to enable us to be able to do what we need to. Secondly, it's around partnerships on product. Technology transfer is critical when it comes to developing capability for manufacturing products from end to end. We know that tech transfer is costly, it's expensive, it's intensive. Our experience when it comes to tech transfer, our experience in the Ministry of Health at Kenya BioVax, is that we need hand-holding from those who've been there before us in terms of tech transfer. And again, with the Korean experience, working closely with Kenya, we recognize the big pharma opportunities that there are here in Korea for tech transfer. And thirdly, it's around the people. And just before I go to people, to mention tech transfer again, I think it's important to recognize the work that we're already building, we as the Ministry of Health, we as the Kenya government, the work that we're already building with the International Vaccines Institute when it comes to end-to-end vaccines manufacturing. The IVI, through the country office that is being set up in Nairobi, Kenya, to drive the AVAC project, is a critical element within the ecosystem that we're building in Kenya, in the region, to develop vaccine capability. And I recognize Dr. Jerome came here with us today as a key partner. And finally, it's around people. In Africa today, this is a new frontier when it comes to vaccines manufacturing. We need the right people with the right skill set to be able to drive biomanufacturing forward. We need to expose our people to hands-on training when it comes to biomanufacturing. And again, in terms of partnerships, we have the experience with Korea. At Kenya Biovacs and also at the Kenya Medical Research Institute, we have been able to send people to Korea to have hands-on experience when it comes to biomanufacturing. The IVI has given the opportunity through the global training hubs to provide an avenue, a playing field, if you like, for that experience to be had. And I'm glad to also notice that the CEO of the Kenya Medical Research Institute, a key partner back home in Kenya, is here with us today to help to strengthen that partnership with the IVI. So partnership is really important. On our own, we cannot make it, but together we can go further. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Lusola. So before we proceed with today's presentation, we would like to invite our attending speakers, ambassadors, and senior officials to join us on stage for a group photo. We'll now begin the keynote presentation of session 2. So our first presentation is by Director Eugene Zhang, Director of International Cooperation Affairs at KCDA. Seems to be okay.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eugene Zhang, Director for International Cooperation in Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency. Well, I'm honored to have this opportunity to make a presentation to the distinguished guests today. Today, I will start with a brief introduction of the KDCA, and then cooperation between KDCA and Africa region, and a third part will be a way forward for our collaboration. The first page is the history of KDCA. Well, our history goes back to 1960. The NIH, founded in 1960 by unifying 3 existing major institutes. Well, KDCA's history can be seen as a history of infectious disease control and prevention. After the SARS outbreak in 2003, the KCDC was established in 2004. And functionally, the center strengthened its role for bioterrorism preparedness and established BL3 lab facilities. In 2012, KDCA established the Vaccine Research Center and a National Biobank. And also, after the MERS outbreak in 2015, the KCDC learned from its response experiences and established an EOC, Laboratory Analysis Centers, Risk Communication Team, and BL4 Laboratory. In the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic responses in 2020, KCDC was elaborated to the KDCA, Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency, as an independent agency from Ministry of Health and Welfare. This is the organizational chart of the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency. Well, KDCA has 8 bureaus and 42 divisions and 34 affiliated institutions, as well as around 1,600 persons working in the agency. In addition to the 13 quarantine stations all over the nation and the 2 tuberculosis hospitals, KDCA added the NIID, National Institute of Infectious Diseases, and 5 regional centers all over the nation. With this structural change, KDCA expanded its function to policymaking for infectious diseases. Well, moreover, recently, KDCA went through another structural change, aiming at strengthening surveillance, data science-driven policymaking, as well as immunization program. We also aim at integrated management of various health hazards, including climate change and health. After experiencing COVID-19, KDCA once again recognized the importance of international cooperation more than ever. Based on the good evaluation of Korea's COVID-19 responses by many other organizations overseas, we are expanding international cooperation to share experiences and knowledges with other international counterparts. Now, KDCA expanding its international collaboration. Collaboration with the following three goals. First, to establish Korea as a global leader and fulfill its role and responsibility as a member of the international community through cooperation and support with the international partners, and to develop experts who can be really active in the international arena. KDCA attends various and important meetings and lead global agendas in, for example, WHO and its regional offices, as well as the UN General Health Assembly high-level meetings. Last week, as my commissioner said, we attended the 77th Assembly and AMR Strategic Roundtable, as well as, and my commissioner made a speech with Africa CDC Director General Jin Kaseya. To have a stronger bilateral partnership with the international global partners, we hold the annual CJK Infectious Disease Forum, for example, and various bilateral talks with major CDCs and NPHAs. The history of cooperation, those are the international partners that we are working with. So we are expanding more and more, and we are seeking more deeper collaboration with those partners. So the history of cooperation with the KDCA and African region is not limited to recent works. We've been working with countries in the continent since even 2017. Korea National Institute of Health worked for establishment of collaborative relationship with African countries. As you can see in these pictures, KNIH held joint meetings and training courses for strengthening research capacity in 2018, 2019, and even last year. In the training courses, Korea and African colleagues shared knowledges on diagnostic techniques and evaluation study. Korea's collaboration with Africa has also been carried out through other organizations. In the case of GHSA, Global Health Security Agenda, which is a platform that was launched in 2014 and in which Korea is still one of the leading countries, many African countries are also active and connected. The 2017 ministerial meeting was held in Uganda, and Ethiopia is currently hosting the 2024 chair. During the pandemic, Africa, in particular, the African CDC and KDCA became very close partners. In 2020, we organized online meetings and technical webinars to share knowledge and experience on COVID-19 responses. Research collaboration has also continued with the Liberian Institute of Infectious Disease conducting research on Lassa fever, and the Tanzania Institute of Southeast Africa Infectious Disease conducting research on hemorrhagic fever. In March 2022, KDCA and Africa CDC signed an MOU and established a joint action plan to promote comprehensive cooperation projects in the field of infectious diseases. Accordingly, KDCA secured the budget and signed a grant agreement, as my commissioner mentioned her welcoming remarks, on November 2023 and launched Korea Africa CDC ODA project. The Korea Africa CDC ODA project is a 5-year project from 2022 to 2026, with a total budget of approximately $3 million over the 5 years to support African CDC. The objective of the project is to support activities to strengthen preparedness and response to public health crisis emergency in African region, and to build integrated laboratory system and capacity to do so. It has 4 main areas of activities. The first is to strengthen preparedness and response to the emergencies in the African region by deploying emergency response team and to collaborate research and training response personnel. The second is to build the capacity to strengthen the region's specimens transport network, and third is to improve the quality of laboratory network through laboratory mapping in the region. Finally, to improve access to diagnostic list and development, the activity contains the development of the diagnostic kits manufacturing. While we have recently launched a number of collaborative initiatives, there are still more to come. As my commissioner already mentioned, last year, KDCA established the Global Health Security Coordination Office in Korea, in Osung, to promote and coordinate global efforts to strengthen global health security and contribute to enhance response capacity for future health emergencies. This year, the GISCO will define its functions and make its role more visible through a number of outreach activities. And in the long term, it will serve as a platform where global actions are shared and coordinated, and where experts from all around the world can be connected and collaborate with. Well, we think with the GISCO, we can broaden our collaboration in 2 ways. Not only limited to diagnostics or lab capacity, we can broaden our collaboration in various fields, like with the major partners. For example, surveillance of infectious diseases, pandemic preparedness and response, antimicrobial resistance management, and infectious and prevention control, and climate change. As this year, the UN high-level meeting will address the AMR issue, we can also think of the collaboration in the AMR area. Also, the Africa is working with many countries I know. For example, countries or international organizations with which we, KDCA, have partnership with. For example, the US CDC, EU CDC, the Robert Koch Institute, UNICEF, and others. They are working with Africa CDC to prepare for future pandemic. So in addition to bilateral collaboration between African CDC and KDCA, we believe that by aligning and strengthen our work with also the third party of the international partners to make a synergy or make our work more efficient and effective. Also, what I mentioned in this slide is for the technical cooperation, we would like to propose the development of rapid point-of-care testing kits for diagnostic high-risk viral hemorrhagic fever, such as Ebola virus disease, Lassa fever, and etc. So potential type of pathogens or specimen candidates can be high-risk viruses or high-risk germs, as indicated in the slides. And also, now as KDCA has the technology as below on the slides, we can further seek for collaboration between the organizations. Our National Health Institute of Health is planning to also establish a hub for joint research containing personal exchange and infectious disease response based on mutual understanding between the countries. So it would be very great if the Africa CDC cooperates as a global infectious disease vaccine and therapeutic hub by exchange resources and informations and promoting joint research based on the joint action plan which we have developed and signed on April 2022. So I listed many cooperation partnership organizations here. So I think we can further seek more collaboration with other organizations as well as African CDC. So that is all I have today, and I really thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Director Chong. Next, we'll have a presentation by Dr. Shiluba Mvila of the Platform for Harmonized African Health Product Manufacturing at the Africa CDC.
Distinguished guests, may I just say, all protocol observed. My name is Chiluba Mwila. I'm coming from Africa CDC and doing this presentation on behalf of Dr. Bebe, the coordinator of the Partnership for African Vaccine Manufacturing, who is not available today. I also just want to mention that PAVM is the term that most of us have gotten used to over the years, but has since changed to Platform for Harmonized Africa Health Products Manufacturing. This is to encompass manufacturing of other health products as well. So I will start with the landscape for manufacturing on the continent. And this slide is usually put in front of people just as a reminder of where the continent is. And for me, I think that it's an energizing slide for everyone who loves global health and is interested in ensuring the health security of Africa. So at the moment, the continent manufactures only about 1% of vaccines, therapeutics about 30%, and imports 95% of medical devices. We have since seen a lot of interest in manufacturing agenda on the continent, and the approach is to ensure that we have an end-to-end approach. And here we are looking at the supply side and the demand side, and also considering the enablers that have been identified, and I'll have a look at them later. So we are trying to move from 1% to 60% by the year 2040 as a goal that has been set by the AU with an intermediate goal of 30% by the year 2030. So what we are trying to look at is to ensure that we attend to a number of enablers that are going to facilitate this agenda of vaccine manufacturing on the continent. Number one is to make sure that we have health markets for locally produced vaccines, ensuring that there's production of quality vaccines, facilitating sustainable financing, supporting capability building and talent development, and also have a vibrant R&D ecosystem and technology transfer. These are the PAVM framework for action defined 8 programs, and these are the ones that have been defining how we interact with our various partners. So by looking at these, partners can identify specific areas where they are strong to offer collaboration to the African continent. To just amplify how our heads of states are taking the issue of health security on the continent, the 37th Ordinary Session of the EU Assembly passed a number of decisions. Number one was to set up and run a continental food procurement mechanism. Number two is to expand the mandate of Africa CDC to lead the agenda of manufacturing vaccines, therapeutics, diagnostics, and other health products. And this has then necessitated the change of the name from PAVM to FARM. And also selected His Excellency President William Ruto of Kenya as the champion for local manufacturing of health commodities. To have a successful Africa manufacturing ecosystem on the continent, there are a number of things that we need to respond to. And so we have looked at a number of questions that we need to answer as we move this agenda forward on the supply side and on the demand side. So we have to ask ourselves a number of questions which we should respond to, and then define the interventions that need to get into the grand picture for this agenda. For the supply side, we have been asking ourselves which manufacturers are on the continent, what products will they bring to the market, and when will this begin to happen? What support do the manufacturers need to bring these products to the market? And what can governments do to best support the manufacturers on the continent? On the demand side, we ask ourselves questions. Are our countries ready to buy African-made vaccines? We have already had instances of other vaccines expiring on the continent. How is African-made being considered when making vaccine decisions? What support do countries require to improve their commitment or outlook on buying African vaccine manufacturing products? So we have been trying to provide this information as Africa CDC. So at the moment, we have about 23 plans on the continent. And we have been having conversations with different manufacturers on the continent to understand the stage where they are. So we have established so far that 9 companies have got commercial scale vaccine manufacturing facilities. We have 5 companies that have broken ground on vaccine manufacturing facilities, and will be tech transfer ready in a few years. A further 6 haven't broken the ground yet, and we're still gathering more data from those who have expressed interest to venture into this agenda. So between 2025 and 2030, there are 8 antigens expected to have acquired WHO PQ and be ready to enter the continental market. So these are the ones that we have listed there. We are embarking on this work because we have to prepare for these manufacturers and put in place various enablers within the ecosystem to facilitate introduction of these vaccines on the market. On the demand side, obviously in conversations with the manufacturers, the demand offtake is a big challenge, and this is what the manufacturers are asking for. It's still unclear, the unclear offtake for African vaccine-made vaccines makes this conversation very, very difficult. And so it is now, it has become central to our work to try and see how we can create the market for the vaccine manufacturers on the continent. Our thinking at the moment is that if the countries use their decision-making powers to select the African-made vaccines, which is what we are proposing with the African food procurement mechanism, this is likely to unlock a lot of market for our manufacturers. Of course, we have other enablers that we are looking at, and we look at the entire ecosystem. So related to demand offtake, last week we had a meeting, a high-level side event on the sidelines of 77th WHO, and we presented this agenda with the ask to the health ministers. We had over 45 of them in the room to have a look at this critically and begin to have conversations to commit to buy locally manufactured vaccines. In terms of the enablers, other programs that we are embarking on, a lot has come out already regarding workforce. We have developed a strategy, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but we see that we need to have a well-coordinated approach to developing workforce for the continent. And because we have vaccine manufacturers who are at different levels, our thinking is that we need to have customized training depending on the level of these manufacturers. And based on what we have found in this space, we have gone on to develop strategic interventions to respond to workforce development on the continent. And these interventions include short-term, mid-term, and long-term interventions. For market shaping, I've already talked about the mandate for us to develop an African food procurement mechanism. This is intended to improve access to quality and affordable health products and technologies. So it's not just going to be vaccines, but also includes other health products. But also with very strong inclination towards the vaccine manufacturers, because it's intended to also promote the localization of manufacturing. So in developing this African food procurement mechanism, it started with a discussion paper to identify what the critical functions of an effective APPM could be. And these are some of the functions that have been highlighted. And we are now working in collaboration with a number of partners to deep dive into how these roles can be fulfilled. And we are also taking a phased approach. We can't go straight full throttle. So we understand that this is a complex process. So we will start slowly from the startup phase and then go to consolidation and growth and then maturation, as earlier indicated in the opening remarks. And these are some of the partners that we are working with. And also just to emphasize that the work that we do strongly depends on effective partnerships. We also organized a marketplace meeting. This was held last year in Marrakesh, brought together the AU member states and manufacturers, and the idea was to begin to have an understanding of what is coming in the next few years from the manufacturers, and also sensitize the member states what they need to be ready for, and also ensuring that there is no duplication of effort. So having an understanding of what is happening on the continent is important for all the players. And then in collaboration with Gavi, I'm pretty sure all of us in here have heard of AVMA, which will be launched this month in France. Innovative financing mechanism of $1 billion spread over 10 years. For the regulatory framework, obviously, here we emphasize that we need to strengthen the regulatory systems, make sure that we have quality products. So issues to do with strengthening regulatory systems in countries, but also regulatory harmonization initiatives are at the center of this agenda. Then for infrastructure development and supply chain value system, when we talk about infrastructure development, we refer to both the soft infrastructure and the hard infrastructure. So on the part of the soft infrastructure, dealing with the trade policies that can facilitate the vaccine manufacturing industry. On the part of the value chain understanding, we are trying to understand where the raw materials can be sourced, understanding the supply chain for the raw materials. So related to this, we had a supply chain forum earlier this year in Nairobi, hosted with CEPI, to begin to attend to the aspect of raw materials for vaccine manufacturing. So related to this, there's going to be a strategy that is going to be developed on how we can strengthen the supply of raw materials. And a number of things were agreed upon, I think 6 issues identified, which I have listed there. And priorities have then been set regarding this to develop this strategic document as an intervention to strengthen the supply chain for raw materials for vaccine manufacturing. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shiluba. So next we'll have a presentation by Dr. Jerome Kim, Director General of the IVI. Jerome.
Good afternoon again. I'm going to explain a little bit more about a new initiative called Advancing Vaccine End-to-End Capabilities in Africa, or AVAC Africa, which we're pursuing with several partner organizations, including the Africa CDC. We know that and it's already been spoken of earlier today, that Africa currently manufactures less than 1% of the vaccines that it utilizes within the continent, and Africa CDC has set a target of 60% self-sufficiency by 2040. We think that this is very important because it will strengthen not only pandemic preparedness, but tackle endemic diseases potentially, and as you heard in the previous talk, strengthen and improve supply security. So AVAC Africa takes a slightly different perspective. It looks at vaccine projects as a ground-up approach that takes products through the R&D cycle, through manufacturing, and then to procurement and implementation. In the same way that a company will approach a vaccine product, looking at it initially as a preclinical vaccine, then as a clinical development project, then as something that needs to be approved, manufactured, and sold. This project proposes using individual vaccine antigen projects to build the human capabilities that are necessary and the technical infrastructure necessary in order to have sustainable manufacturing in the end. And fits in very well with the previous discussion about what Africa CDC intends to do with the FAM. So if you think about the vaccine value chain, there is an epidemiology component. There's a component of local research in laboratories in Africa. There's the actual development activity, the clinical trials that go into testing vaccines. Then there's a whole series of manufacturing processes, whether it's technology transfer and capability buildings there, or training people in order to work in a vibrant and robust vaccine or biologics manufacturing industry. Then it's approvals, and you heard about Africa CDC's work there, and then finally help with demand generation. And again, I think that the AVMA is a really good example of how thinking has already evolved to the point of being able to think about a sustainable vaccine industry powered by purchases of vaccines manufactured in Africa and implementation. So if you think then about the 5 I's, and you can see how it all fits in to the first knowing the incidence of a disease, then having innovation, so this is the work in the laboratory clinical testing, then you need industrialization, because we have to be able to manufacture the vaccines at high quality and at a reasonable cost. Then you need implementation, and after all those 4 I's, then you get impact. And as we think about vaccine projects, we think not about individual laboratory research projects or just doing clinical trials at a clinical site in Africa, but really being able to accomplish everything from end to end at different and with different organizations in Africa. Now, this will be enabled by a number of different activities that IVI is proposing doing in partnership with other African organizations. On-the-ground activities to strengthen the ecosystem through end-to-end vaccine development. Having a footprint that exists not in one place, but in multiple places. Having a network of partners, being able to obtain funding from different partners, so to apply for successfully and execute grants in order to do vaccine research and development. And finally, to leverage global capabilities, understanding that we don't develop vaccines just in Korea or just in the United States. We develop them in partnership with lots of different organizations around the world, and I think CEPI is a good example of this. You can have a laboratory developing a vaccine in Pennsylvania. In the United States, you'll have manufacturing maybe done in Korea. You'll have clinical trials done all over the world, but also in Africa. We'll have a regulatory authority somewhere, a stringent regulatory authority or an ML3 regulatory authority, one that is able to make an assessment of the quality of the data and the manufacturing process. And then we'll have procurement and use globally. These are partnerships that exist everywhere. What we think is wrong with the current model is that many organizations, and actually IVI has been guilty of this too, is that we will do something in Africa and leave. And that does not leave a legacy of capability. It leaves us with multiple clinical trial sites that are highly capable, but that are not necessarily linked by projects to ongoing activities that will keep these research and development activities sustainable. And I learned something 2 weeks ago at a conference that I was at, and it was actually the former acting chief scientific officer of Africa CDC. And she said, when we think about these things, we have to think about them with intention and empowerment as 2 key parts of this. With intention, this can't just be an incidental thing that we're going to do something that impacts Africa, but we're not doing it as the primary goal of our activities. And anything we do has to be empowering. It has to create capabilities that will be sustainable and will be there and build capacities within Africa itself. So as we think about AVAC Africa, IVI, in partnership with others, because again, this is not an activity that a single organization can do, is looking to build across the vaccine value chain that links the different pillars of the formulas that we have to strengthen different activities within Africa, but then to use all of those and to use vaccine projects to train people, to build capabilities and confidence in the system in Africa. So this links in very well with the 8 areas in the strategic, in the 8 programs that the Africa CDC has put down as a part of the framework for action. So you can see programs 3, 4, 5, and 6. AVAC Africa links to all of those programs, creating regional capacity and capabilities, putting vaccine R&D centers with vaccine R&D coordination units, strengthening regulatory authorities, supporting technology transfer. And again, technology transfer is something that IVI believes very strongly in. We've done 13 technology transfers of 6 different vaccines. And you'll see an example of one of these, because this is exactly the example that we would like to use as the way AVAC Africa will work to strengthen an ecosystem. At the same time, and with the support of our board and partners in Rwanda and Kenya, we've picked a place for IVI's regional office, which is actually going to be the center of IVI's network in Africa. It's going to be a place where we can engage our headquarters for engaging with other state parties. It's also going to be the center of a new clinical training network that will develop capabilities and hopefully not only for vaccine, but for other things as well, and will be the center of our work to build human capabilities, not only in Rwanda, but elsewhere in Africa. At the same time, the Kenya country office will host the AVAC project. And the AVAC project, again, Pan-African network that links the centers of activity through these end-to-end projects. An IVI grant application office will be there, and we just signed an MOU with the Kenya Advanced Institute for Science and Technology. And the partnership there will allow us to set up a site where we can now integrate with an African university and apply with people in the university for grants to develop vaccines together. We hope also then that the end-to-end project management coordination can be conducted through this office. So we're aiming to build these capabilities, and you'll actually see that projects are lining up already to be run out of the office. So this is the different types of projects that AVAC Africa is now beginning to put into place. Support for manufacturing. You can see the work with IPD on MR vaccine clinical development and on different aspects of biomanufacturing training and support for their efforts to become a regional training center. Work with Avergen for developing mRNA capabilities. Work with BioVac in South Africa on the oral cholera vaccine simplified formulation technology transfer done in collaboration with U-Biologics here in Korea. And then work with DEK in Ghana, again around support for tech transfer. Vaccine development and clinical trials. The ARQUA project, which is funded by CEPI, is to prepare clinical trial sites in West Africa for phase 3 clinical trials initially for Lassa fever. And that is a very large CEPI-funded activity that will exist in multiple countries in West Africa. And I'm sorry that the Deputy Director General who runs that program is not here, because they are having meetings right now to very rapidly try and set this up, because those Lassa fever vaccines are ready for human clinical, for efficacy testing. We have a proposal with Avergen in South Africa, with Avergen as the lead, IVI as a subawardee, together to develop an mRNA vaccine for Rift Valley fever in collaboration with the Institut Pasteur Dakar as well. So again, using partnerships and using grants that are written by, or that are led by African organizations, universities, or companies, with IVI as a backup, working with these organizations in order to enable and train people to secure grants successfully and to execute them successfully. You can see some of the other projects. I'd like to again highlight this REOP in Mozambique. This is, again, a grant written by the INS, the National Institute of Health of Mozambique, with them as the lead and with IVI as a subawardee. Again, emphasizing the idea that these grants have to come. We have to be successful in training people to write successful grants, to develop the kinds of vaccines that Africa needs. Then training programs. And again, the Global Training Hub, which many people have mentioned. The vaccinology course that IVI has run now, this will be the 23rd iteration of the vaccinology course, will be offered in Rwanda as a site for the training activity. And funding has been secured for a significant number of students to be hosted at the site in Rwanda. And then, of course, today we signed the agreement on the Kenya ICE academic program, and IVI will have found a university home through this activity at Kenya ICE, so be formally integrated into a university for training purposes. And we think this is, again, a very important step for us to take, because it roots the training in the work that we do. And many of the organizations, the universities that we work with outside of Africa, commit with us to doing the training and the work in Africa. And then we commit to helping people find grant funding to keep these trained investigators on site. And we're using it as an example, this technology transfer to Kenya Biovacs. So again, a lot of the work on epidemiology of cholera has been done, often led by previous generations at IVI. Laboratory research and discovery, again, OCV was one of the first vaccines actually developed by, in fact, we call it vaccine number 1. OCVS is the simplified version of that. Why? Because I think, and Africa CDC was very important in this, the declaration of the state of emergency around cholera outbreaks in Africa, and the fact that the 70 million dose stockpile now has 0 doses. And so the world depends on the monthly production of OCV in Korea. OCVS is an amazing step forward because it not only lowers the cost of a vaccine, which is $1.30 a dose, but it makes 30% more doses available. So lowering the cost and increasing the supply and technology transfer to BioVac for, from scratch, manufacture of a new vaccine, which I think will be a great step forward for all of us and contribute, hopefully, to the provision of OCVS to global supply chains. So again, integrating this, technology transfer into the plan for developing vaccines and capabilities in Africa, I think is really critical. And again, this is a grant where BioVac is the lead applicant and IVI is a subordinate. Increasingly, we'd like to use this approach as a way to train people to get used to grant applications, the tempo and being successful at it, and then executing these grants according to plan. So I have to say, BioVac is now at the 200-liter stage. That's the stage where their commercialization will occur. For one of the 2 strains, we're waiting for information on the second strain. They are making progress, very meaningful progress, towards being able to manufacture OCVS in South Africa. We're still looking for funding, and again, this is a part of the work that IVI does in global health routinely, which is always a search for funding for the next portion of vaccine development. But we have some very good opportunities that have made themselves available recently. So we're hoping that this project can be completed with that funding. So again, AVAC Africa hopefully will accelerate the vaccine R&D ecosystem that the Africa CDC has laid the groundwork for, and really begin to build those capabilities to manufacture vaccines, hopefully with the purchasing mechanism now to be able to sustain manufacturing in Africa, and with all the training activities that are going on now regionally as well as through the Global Training Hub here, having a workforce that's able to accomplish the very high ambitions of Africa CDC in having 60% of vaccines manufactured in Africa by 2040. Thank you.
Thank you, Jérôme. So now we'll start with session 3. So I think we'll set the chairs. So perhaps we can start. Yeah. So we will start with, so we are going to set the stage for the sessions. Thank you very much. So now I would like to invite all the speakers from sessions 3 to take your seat on stage. So Dr. Hoon, Director Park, Director Lee, Dr. Shiluba, and Professor Mutisia. So during this session, we are going to attend presentation on best practice. And if we have some time, as we are running a little bit late, it will be followed by question and answer. So at this time, I would like to invite Dr. Hoon Sang Lee, Chief Strategy Officer of the Right Foundation, to deliver his presentation.
Hello. Thank you very much for kind introductions. My name is Hoon Sang Lee. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of the Right Foundations, and I will present about what Right Foundation is doing for driving R&D toward global public health equity. So Right Foundations is a foundation established with funding support from the Korean government, namely the Ministry of Health and Welfare, and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundations, and Korean life science industries. And the purpose is to leverage Korea's capacity toward contributing to developing and making available essential medical countermeasure tools as a global public goods. And for this purpose, we are actually using Korean government's ODA fundings for R&D. And this is actually our vision, a world where infectious disease pose no threat to any community, and with the mission to elevate the burden of infectious disease that affects people in low and middle income countries. To achieve this vision and missions, we have three strategic objectives areas. First one is objective areas and funding programs. First one is product development awards. It is by and large our largest program areas. Main engine of Right Foundation is funding programs. With this, we support development of the essential health technologies as global public goods, with the goal of having the product to be in the global public procurement to achieve the global access. And also, additionally, one of the aspects that we fund through this goal is actually technology transfer, both from other countries to Korean manufacturer to manufacture the vaccine in Korea, or if there is any willing partners in Korea in the area of vaccines, diagnostics, therapeutics, we can also fund tech transfer to low and middle income countries partners to be for the tools to be manufactured in the countries. Second area is evidence generation awards. We are trying to support evidence base for the product development with the local insights. With this, actually, we support economic evaluations or operational research so that for any of the vaccine or diagnostic tool or therapeutics, so that there can be public health evidence for quickening, accelerating the national adaptation of such a tool. Third area is training awards. In the third area, actually we are joining our force to be contributing to the Korean government initiative of Global Training Hub for Biomanufacturing Initiative. And we are trying to support the training of workforce in manufacturing of essential technologies. Right now, we are studying it with vaccine manufacturing, which already began now. And we are considering potentially expanding into the area of diagnostics, regulatory training, and others area as well. In doing so, we have core value of collaborations to foster exchange of knowledge and skills, and also to contribute with Korea's strength and especially in the engineering, process optimizations, and manufacturing. In this process, Right Foundation has been funding quite a number of funding grants, and Right Foundation had been catalyzing international partnership and funding multi-country clinical trial in the process. Especially, it was actually quite apparent in the area of vaccines. with the typhoid conjugate vaccines, which is had been developed is implemented by U-Biologics and PATH. It is actually right now done in Kenya and Senegal. And as for the pentavalent meningococcal vaccines, again, with the U-Biologics and PATH, the field trial site is Korea, but also Gambia and Mali. And with the Korea conjugate vaccines, it is actually being implemented by IVI, Mass General Hospitals, and U-Biologics, currently in Korea, but in a later phase, actually, we will be willing to support funding in multiple countries, including potentially many of the countries in Africa as well. So in doing so, we are actually having quite a willingness to position ourselves as R&D funders with end-to-end outlooks, so that we can fund research and development and some aspect of the technology transfer all the way up to the licensure and WHPQ. But while we do not go beyond the licensure, we are constantly looking for partnerships to accelerate or smoothing the pathway for regional or global public procurement, so that any of the product, whether it is a vaccine or diagnostics or therapeutics, can reach equitable access to essential health technologies. And in the process, we provide funds and insights. We engage like many of the partners who are listed here. And also we catalyze partnership for research. And also we do a lot of advocacy to regional and global funders to leverage Korea's strength. And so far, we have funded 59 grants, which amounts to 78.8 billion Korean won, which is equivalent to 59 million US dollars. And it is actually covering all four product area of vaccine, diagnostics, therapeutics, and actually we are slowly getting into our hands on the digital health as well. And we are, Right Foundation, quite disease agnostics, but based on like what had been applied to Right Foundations, there had been quite a number of different disease areas, such as pandemic potential disease, malaria, TB, NTD, and many others. And especially in the area of vaccine, we have funded about like 32 projects so far in the area of vaccine and therapeutics. And as you can see on the logo that are represented here, there are actually quite a number of many African institutions, research institutions and others. And we are hoping that to see African institutions, whether it is a research institution or government or university researchers, we are trying to see more of those partners who will participate in this process, as long as they can find any Korean partners who has a legal entity in Korea, whether in research or government or academic institutions. And out of this, actually, IVI actually had been quite successfully was able to land itself in 5 of grants, which either IVI is leading or IVI is participating as well, which accumulates to quite sizable amount of fundings. And also, this is for the Evidence Generation Awards, which actually started in the area of digital health. And now we are trying to expand it to the area of vaccines, diagnostic and others. And there had been quite a number of digital health tools for surveillance reporting or health record reporting and record keeping or vaccine registrations. And many of those projects are actually right now undertaken in African continent, in countries such as Uganda, Malawi, Nigeria, and Mozambique, and others. And also, there have been AI-based TB screening tool, which are being validated in Vietnam, Mongolia, and also we are trying to see if this tool can be validated in African countries as well. As for the training program, we had been actually receiving quite, we are currently actually, we actually gathered, we had the RFP for training program for manufacturing capacity in the more hands-on advanced course. And indeed, we had quite a number of applicants, 30, especially from 13 countries from Africa as well, quite large size. At the end, actually, we are quite continent agnostic, so we do not dictate who will be selected. It is really competitive based selection process. But we have seen that there are out of 40 applicants who were finally selected, 18 of them actually are from Africa. Indeed, there had been one additional person who were waitlisted, and now we are expecting 19 people who had been actually selected from Africa. And we are constantly trying to find more partners globally, from Global North, also Global South. And especially, we would be delighted to see more partners in African continents for these matters. For partnership for health technology research and development process, or any partner who are willing to explore the potential for technology transfer or evidence generations, or any other partner who do really want to work with us in terms of in the dialogue of scale up of such products. And at the end, what we want to really do is truly, we want to be R&D funders who are in the space of approaching this issue as from end-to-end approach, all the way to global public procurement of health technology as global public goods, global common goods, and really achieve global public health equity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lee. So now we will have a presentation through Zoom by Dr. Morena Makwana, who is the CEO of AVAC in South Africa. Dr. Morena, are you with us?
Yes, I am here. Can you see me virtually?
Perfectly, hearing and seeing you. Great.
Okay. Thank you very much to the organizers, and my great apologies that I cannot be there in person. South Korea as a country is one that AVAC has an extremely vested interest, and you will see with a few slides that I will present. I'm also very happy with the prior presentations that were made by Africa CDC, by IVI, and the Right Foundation, because they essentially have summarized some of the work that we do. So I think as AVAC, I will be presenting what is essentially we are on the ground, and we'll just be putting what others have laid the foundation for and putting it into reality. So let me just share my slides. Let me go into here. I hope my slides are visible. Okay. I will therefore, what I will be presenting is a little bit about who AVAC is. And we are a South African-based vaccine manufacturer. We were established in 2003 when vaccine manufacturing in Africa was completely, it was not a no-name brand. I'm very happy that at least within our lifetime, that we are able to talk a lot more about vaccine manufacturing more broadly than AVAC talking to itself. But we've been at it for many, many years, and we will show you some lessons that we have learned as we go through and the collaborations that we have been able to strike. We're very proud that we have about 350 employees cut across the whole spectrum of AVAC. And we're very proud of our product development capability within the African context. Product development as vaccine manufacturers is very scarce on the continent. We are a very young industry on the African continent, and it's something that we really need to make sure that there are a lot more manufacturers are in product development, and AVAC would like to see itself as one of those that are leading that aspect of the vaccine value chain. We have over time built and demonstrated our know-how. So on the full finish side, we have two operational filling lines, one that is a vial line and one that is a pre-filled syringe line. I'd like to believe that we're the only ones with a pre-filled syringe vaccine capability on the continent. We've been able to strike, amongst many others, but 3 very successful technology transfer with Big Pharma that I will show in the next slide. And really our main cost has really been to get to end-to-end manufacture so that BioVac ends up owning its own products. I am led, I'd like to say that I'm also led, I'm not only a leader at BioVac, but I'm also led by a very capable team. They manage me very well, and we manage each other very well and at an exco level. But I think what makes me more proud is the men and women at BioVac that are really coming home every day to realize this dream of end-to-end vaccine manufacture. So in putting reality in terms of what I've just described, this is the journey that BioVac has been following very steadily over time. So in summary, if you take it from left to right, to get to drug substance manufacture is not very easy, I think, for anybody that doesn't know about biologicals and vaccine manufacture. Because once you get to that point, firstly, you need some R&D capability. You need deep pockets. And also, once you set up the facility, many of those will need to be dedicated to that particular product. So we've been building capability slowly. We've been raising funding slowly, and we've struck very many major partnerships. Started around 2012 with Sanofi, where we are locally doing full finish of a hexavalent vaccine. We've struck 2 partnerships with Pfizer, one on the Prevnar 13 vaccine, and another one during the pandemic that we're very proud of COVID-19 vaccine. I think if I had time, I would have had to describe that as we moved from the first tech transfer to the second and to the third, it started taking us much longer to start with the hexavalent tech transfer. It took about 7 years. We then learned a lot and took about 5 years to do the PCV13 tech transfer, and only 14 months during the pandemic to be able to execute on the COVID-19 full finish tech transfer with Pfizer. We will not be able to do that 14 months of tech transfer if we didn't have the prior experience. So whilst the start was slow, but with skills, with momentum, and with capability, we've been able to fast track some of the tech transfers that we've had. Now, coming on to our partners in South Korea, I'm very happy to say that one of my panel members being Rachel from U Biologicals, we've signed an MOU with U Biologicals, and are moving here towards a full set of agreement on what they're developing, which is a fully liquid meningitis vaccine. And again, I'm going to talk about our oral cholera vaccine capability now, but the partnerships that we're striking now with our South Korean partners, being U Biologicals and IVR, essentially those are moving the needle for BioVac in many, many forms, in that they are allowing us to really be a continental player. Our prior learnings and our reach has only been within our country, South Africa. However, what we're doing with the meningitis project and what we'll be doing with our oral cholera project will really be able to expand, we'll be able to get into Gavi markets, and we'll really be able to have be an international player. So the partnerships with our Korean partners are really, really, really key. I'm going to go into a little bit of the oral cholera vaccine, particularly because this is a product that really gets to end-to-end manufacture. And I won't dwell too much on it because I think Jerome made an excellent presentation in terms of what it brings to BioVac. But this is also a summarized version, similar to what he has described. But this really shows you that, as African partners, we cannot do it alone. And this project is something that we're really proud of. We got the tech transfer from IVR. So that's the role that IVR plays. We learned the technology at a small scale. We replicated it at BioVac. And our role was to upscale it, as Jerome has already said, from a very small level to about 200 liters, which is what we are doing today. And we are getting into manufacturing the product, for tox studies and preparing for clinical trial, which we are anticipating will be next year. But then you will see that IVI also comes in again, where we will be working together, where They will be holding our hands in terms of clinical trial expertise. BioVac has never taken a product through the clinical trials, and so they will be there to handhold us in terms of that capability. But we will also be working with a local entity that has vast experience in vaccine clinical trials, being the South African Medical Research. They know the local settings, they have the clinical trial sites, and it's been led by Professor Glenda Gray, who has a lot of expertise, most recently with the largest COVID clinical trial called the Sisonke trial. BioVac will then be taking the product through the regulatory path and getting it to commercial manufacture. So what is this partnership about? Now, it's really combining expertise, and those expertise are complementary. IVI has a lot of experience when it comes to the disease being cholera. They've done many clinical trials internationally on cholera, but also on others. We're also going to be leaning on South African Medical Research who have local clinical expertise. And we will be bringing our expertise that we have built and are still building when it comes to African manufacture. We couldn't be doing that, obviously, without the support of funders, being the likes of the Gates Foundation, Open Philanthropies, and the Wellcome Trust. So this is really a partnership that we're extremely proud of. The intended benefit, and this is my last slide, the intended benefit really is for us to be able to, in the next 2 to 3 years, to be say that we have a product that was developed in Africa, that was tested in Africa, manufactured end-to-end in Africa, and supplied to those that are deserving. And that will be to the international community. With that, Chairperson, I'll then hand over. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Makoana. So we are running late, but let's continue. Perhaps we will not have time for the question and answer. So now I would like to invite Rachel Park, the Director of International Business Development at Biologics, to deliver a presentation.
So as you know, our collaborators and Jerome, Hunsang Lee, and Morena, they all talked about what I'm going to talk about, so I'm going to be very short. So thank you very much for extending invitation to Biologics to present in this very important meeting. So I will start with a brief introduction of Biologics, and we are a publicly traded biopharmaceutical company based in South Korea. Our main focus is vaccine development and supply for global public health, and we have annual capacity of 500 million doses. And we are incorporated in 2010. Our headquarters is based in Seoul, and we have 2 manufacturing sites in Chuncheon, which is 1 hour away from Seoul by a car. The number of employees is about 335, and then we are listed in Kosdaq. Our market cap is about $400 million, and we have 2 manufacturing sites. C plant is dedicated to the production of oral cholera vaccine, and B plant is reserved for production of our pipeline vaccines, including typhoid conjugate vaccine, multivalent meningococcal conjugate vaccine, 15-valent pneumococcal conjugate vaccine, etc. So as you have heard, then we are the only and the largest supplier of oral cholera vaccine. It's called the Ubiquil Plus to WHO Global Stockpile. And this is developed through public-private vaccine development partnership and technology transferred from International Vaccine Institute starting from 2010. And since 2016, we shipped more than 150 million doses to low and middle-income countries. So the largest recipient countries of oral cholera vaccine are based in Africa. They are either for outbreak responses or for preventive campaigns caused by climate changes and population displacements. And DK Vaccines Ghana, they are emerging manufacturer of a fill and finish, which manufacturing site is ready by the first half of 2025. So currently they are working on the civil construction. So it's more about the greenfield project, I will say. So we expect to transfer the technology for oral cholera vaccine fill and finish to DK Ghana for production, distribution, and supply to West Africa regions. So to build their capabilities for marketing and sales, DK Ghana is going to register Ubiquil as the final product manufactured by Biologics in West Africa. So what we are going to offer is 2 supports. for engineering and manufacturing process, quality, stability, regulatory, to strengthen national manufacturing capabilities and to increase availability of oral cry vaccine in the continent. So based on, well, I will say this is a very aggressive timeline, but by the end of 2026, and they target to have a licensure from Ghana FDA and supply to West Africa regions from 2027 onwards. The next collaboration that I would like to introduce with BioVac, based in South Africa, with Diphtheria meningitis conjugate vaccine 5. So as you know, meningococcal meningitis has historically high potential to cause large epidemics, especially across 26 African countries called meningitis belt. So in September 2023, WHO said recommended that all countries in African meningitis belt introduce the NMCB5, including serogroups A, C, Y, W, and X, into their routine immunization programs in a single dose schedule at 9 to 18 months of age. In high-risk countries, a catch-up campaign is also conducted targeting individuals aged 1 to 19 years. So we are in development of a low-cost HCWYX conjugate vaccine called the NMCB5 for the African meningitis belt countries, which has a high disease burden. So phase 1 clinical study was completed in South Korea. Safety, immunogenicity have been demonstrated. So we are planning to enter into phase 2/3 study in Mali and the Gambia as early as third quarter 2024. So our target is to be the second supplier of low-cost multivalent meningococcal conjugate vaccine to enhance supply security. This is also in alignment with the WHO defeating meningitis by 2030 global roadmap. So what we are planning to do is to transfer manufacturing process and analytical method to BioVac for fill and finish and release. So BioVac expect to have a local licensure by SAPRA, their local NRA, and pre-qualification in 2029 and supply to the continents. And I think I just introduced 2 cases, but we've been in discussions with a few African regional manufacturers for potential collaboration. And as you know, as I just introduced in 2010, New Biologics was established as a small startup company, but with the support of global stakeholders, including International Vaccine Institute, then our first product, oral corona vaccine, was pre-qualified in relatively short period of time, only 5 years. And then we have our own platform technologies now, and we expand our vaccine pipelines into, we are expanding our vaccine pipelines. So we are really happy to contribute to expand the sustainable vaccine manufacturing in Africa, leveraging our technology and know-how. It is not just limited fill and finish, and I just would like to talk about end-to-end manufacturing is one of areas that we are also interested in as well. So I really believe that we just started our journey, so there will be much more to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Park. So now I would like to invite Alice Lee, the Business Development Director of the IVI, to deliver a presentation.
Good afternoon. It's my great pleasure to update about past, current, and the future of global training hub for biomanufacturing, which is GTHB. So it was February 2022 that WHO designated Korea government as GTHB Global Hub. So it was February, and since then, it was June 2022 that we have implemented the first GTHB program. And since the inception till end last year, more than 2,000 people from the low and middle income countries participated in various programs of GTHB. And today, also more than 130 people are studying in Siheung campus, Korea, to learn the basic knowledge of biologics. And Korea government's commitment to continue these basic programs, including online courses, on-site program, and biologics and GXP, and several hands-on programs will continue, and will continue for a long time. And there are a lot of expansion being planned, and we are going to engage with the stakeholders for the direction of expansions. And Those long-term commitments can be evidenced by the fact that Korea government has established GTHB supporting foundation last month. So it will be a permanent entity which supports GTHB programs. So there could be a lot of questions. Why Korea? What is the differentiating factors that Korea training can be provided? So we listed 3 items. The first thing is end-to-end ecosystem establishment. So from the R&D, biomanufacturing technology, and the development, clinical capability, regulatory trainings, and also the distribution, we try to cover everything. And second, our trainers are from the rich industry talent pool, so they are equipped with the real life experience and know-how. And third, we understand the diverse needs and different hurdles that each country and partners face in real world, and we try to customize our programs to suit the needs. So these are the 3 strengths that Korea government are pulling from multiple industry partners and the training organizations, and such as IBI, which is a mixture of R&D, training, and development. So that is the difference. The last slide is just a list up of several current programs and the direction of the expansion. So there are free online training up to 65 as of today, and we are going to expand, and anybody in the world access to this site and get the training sessions for free. Only registration is required. And we are providing 2 didactic courses for basic knowledge, and these are every year. This is being implemented every year. And we are also doing on-site consultation to the manufacturing partners and also governments. For the partners in Africa country, we have done in South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, and Senegal. And we have been providing several hands-on training programs, which covers mRNA, virus vaccine, vital bacteria vaccine, monoclonal antibody, and excluding bacteria vaccine, all 3 platform has been done in the hands-on training. And also we will start training, hands-on training to national regulatory agency staff, including how to inspect hands-on with a real GMP facility and the quality assays, and all the hands-on training can be provided to the NRA staff. And I can surely say that this is the only organization that can provide this type of training in the globe. And in continuous expansion, so currently we are focusing on the more earlier development side, like hands-on for upstream and fill finish. But later, we will expand our programs to scale up CMC and downstream in the manufacturing side, and also the management training for the manufacturers and project management, which Vincent is specialized in, and also more required general, older, different job trainings in the future. And also, ultimately, we are going to provide quality by design from the system approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. I would like now to invite Dr. Chiluba for his second presentation of the day.
Thank you, Vincent. So my presentation is just to highlight the importance of workforce, where we are as a continent for biomanufacturing workforce, and the agenda we have set ourselves. We approximate currently we have about 3,000 full-time employees who are working in both vaccine manufacturing and R&D. For us to attain the 40%, 60% vaccine manufacturing by 2040, we approximate that we need to quadruple the current number. And so this is the grand agenda for us. We cannot attain the 60% local vaccine manufacturing without the relevant personnel with the required competencies. The continent faces three major challenges, which we have highlighted here as well, which we have to navigate to successfully develop the workforce required. Number one is the scarcity of local talent development initiatives. So we note that there are a number of training programs on the continent. Some of them at their inception were not necessarily designed to support vaccine manufacturing or health products manufacturing as it is at the moment. And so we need to find a way to increase the number of these training initiatives, look at the existing ones and build their capacity to make sure that they are able to sustainably train the required workforce. Number two is the brain drain. We experience about a third of African scientists migrate to go and live in first world countries. And this is likely to continue. This is a very, very complex topic. And of all the three things that we have identified as challenges, this is the one that we are yet to develop a strategy. We attempted to deep dive in it last week in Geneva to have a look at the strategies to counter brain drain. Number three is sustainable financing. The training programs and initiatives that are currently existing have received ad hoc funding. This is not likely to continue. And so it means we need to have a sustainable financing mechanism for the training initiatives and programs on the continent. So we have done some work with this. So we have identified that we need to attend to these three thematic areas as we develop the workforce. Number one is develop the relevant training programs, educational programs, and these will range all the way from the STEM programs, go to internship programs, go to on-the-job development programs. The other programs that we have looked at, trainer of trainers to upskill the trainers on the continent. But all these should be backed up by scholarship programs. This is a big hindrance to enthusiastic young generation who would want to have access to these kind of programs. The strategy that we have adopted, which we think should be able to counter these challenges, is the establishment of the regional capability and capacity networks. So with this strategy, it brings together the academic institutions, educational institutions, we have vocational training schools and universities, and the industry. That comprises the manufacturing industry and the research institutions, but also with the participation of NRIs as well. So we will be establishing the RCCNs who will have the responsibility to conduct and update needs assessment for the required workforce training programs, go on to develop curricula, customize it, and implement that curricula, and continuously find ways to have sustainable financing mechanisms and operating mechanisms for them. So we have a core that is currently running. It's active on Africa CDC website, request for proposals. And this will run up to 31st of July. And would encourage that those who do qualify should consider submitting their proposals. I will skip some of these things. Other things that we have focused on as an intervention. Number one was to consider developing competence frameworks which are going to be informing needs assessments and curriculum development. So we have so far developed 2 competence frameworks for vaccine manufacturing and vaccine R&D. And we have then gone on to use the competence frameworks to design the needs assessment too. And we have gathered data on this. We've got preliminary information. Pending validation, this information will also be made available and published on the Africa CDC website. The first 2 competence frameworks were published last year in November, and will then be proceeding to support the RCCNs to develop the curricula based on the competence frameworks that we have developed. So we see that all these 3 initiatives are feeding into each other. We have the competence framework, and then which was used to build the needs assessment, and then we have the needs assessment preliminary report, which will validate, which will inform development of curriculum. I will not go into all this for the sake of time. And these are just examples. These are the competence frameworks that we developed. Within these competence frameworks, we've also gone on to define within each position how an individual can rise through the ranks. And this, in a way, is a way of thinking about how can we keep the already existing staff and those who have motivated to stay within the continent and the industry. So there's, the details can be found on the website, and that's for. The other aspect of sustainable financing, we conducted a study to understand what does it take to establish a full-scale biomanufacturing training center. And so we've looked at a number of options that are available from around the world. We have, for a full-scale training center, you need approximately 40 million euros with the expenses, running expenses. And then you've got a limited scale training center. You can start slowly, where you need about 4 million euros. So a consideration of these need to be put in place by those interested in establishing these biomanufacturing training centers. The absence of these centers have been the drive behind us as Africa CDC sponsoring a number of trainees from the continent because we do not have facilities to support hands-on trainings. And so we see that with this information coming out, we've made a number of recommendations. And key to that, I think, is the emphasis on partnerships, promoting collaborations. And this further supports our agenda that we need to establish these relationships or collaborations through the RCCNs, whose core is active at the moment. Again, this report is also available on the Africa CDC website, and can have a look at it for more details. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shiluba. So now we'll go for the last presentation of the day. So Professor Mutisya, who is chairman of the Council of the Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening. I know we are all tired. I'm just going to go very quickly to give you an overview of what we call the Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, which is a specialized university placed or anchored at the Ministry of ICT, and whose focus is on to drive science, technology, and innovation research to promote Kenya's industrial growth, grow the industrial base, and modernize Kenya's economy. I'm just going to give you a general background, and then I'll focus on the biotechnology, which is more relevant to the discussions today. We have 7 flagship programs, masters and PhDs in selected areas that Kenya needs to build its economy on a knowledge foundation. And we are modeled after the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, with financial support also from the government of South Korea. And we take ourselves as Africa's premier institution of science, technology, research, and innovation. Now, the nature of the Kenya IST is that we are a graduate-only university, a public university, serving the mission and vision of Kenya's development, especially Vision 2030, and also the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which is driving Kenya's development process in the coming years. Our focus is to train highly qualified innovators, scientists, and engineers, and we have a core alignment with socially relevant research to create social and economic values that will improve the quality of lives of Kenyans. These are the unique characteristics of the Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. We have a strong focus on industrial academic collaboration in the various areas of training that we are focusing on. We also have virtual or online lectures that will be delivered both from within Kenya, within Africa, and also from outside Africa, in partnership with our collaborators, of course, including IVI, who are our newest partners in this process. We do have high-class research facilities to drive the kind of high-level research that we are supposed to work on. And also we have central workshops that will drive the designs and experiments that our students and our researchers will go through. These are the 7 flagship programs, mainly in engineering, all the way from ICT to chemical, civil engineering, but also importantly, biotechnology. We are starting with agricultural biotechnology, and the focus now, under this conversation that we have here today, is the drive that we have to train scientists, innovators around the subject of biotechnology. I think the Kenya AVAC Institute did mention some of the things that Kenya is doing and the kind of agenda that we have out there. We are working together on the same to drive Kenya's focus on health products, innovations around public health, which is exactly the same thing that also the Kenya Medical Research Institute, KEMRI, is working on. So we are a bigger team here to work together with partners who are in this space to drive the kind of public health development that we are all looking forward to. In our partnership that we signed today with the IVI, the focus is on vaccine development research, public health training, and capacity development or capacity building of our leaders in the area of vaccine and public health. And That is critical because we are learning, or we are going to learn more from IVI and from our partners in Korea. And of course, at the end, we look forward also to building new partnerships with the stakeholders who are present in this meeting. Our mandate focuses mainly on teaching, innovation training, sharing and exchange of knowledge and promotion of research, not just for national development, but also for regional development, because we are also working with our partners across Africa, and this will be driven by our partnership with the private sector, in the areas of focus that Kenya East is working on. Here are potential areas of collaboration that we think will be good in driving the kind of agenda that we have in the table. We are looking forward to working with the private sector, leading industry players in the public health space, in the vaccine space, both here in South Korea and also our partners from Africa, our partners from other countries, across the globe. We're also looking forward to working towards mobilizing resources. Our colleague here from the African CDC did talk about innovative financing mechanism. I think these are the mechanisms that we need to sit together and come up with so that we can fund the kind of initiatives that we are all talking about here. And that is why Jerome, when he stood up, he did say that, Kenya East could provide that space to raise grants to support some of the activities that we'll be driving together for Africa. We also provide support, space for academic programs development and student supervision, as well as the creation of knowledge, commercialization of innovations to drive the kind of industries that we want to see in our countries. And finally, we want now to create companies out of the kind of research and the kind of innovations that are coming up from the training programs and from the research that Kenya East is going to work on together with our partners. So we look forward to working with our partners here, and we welcome you to Nairobi. We are located in Konza Technopolis. Join us there so that we can work together, walk this journey together to advance the kind of research, the kind of innovation, the kind of vaccine development, the kind of public health that we need as a people to improve the quality of lives of our people in our countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Mutisia, and thank you very much to all the speakers. So for the sake of time, I think we'll have to skip the Q&A. And perhaps I would like to call Jerome for the closing remarks.
Thank you to all the speakers. Those were wonderful, and I'm sorry that we don't have time for questions, but you can ask questions of the speakers during the reception that follows, hopefully, and hopefully the refreshments will get everyone back in questioning mode. So I think that this has been a really remarkable set of presentations. It's going to build on work that started during the pandemic. During a pandemic where we saw the world's response, where some organizations, some countries had access to diagnostics and healthcare and early access to vaccines, and other countries did not. Unfortunately, the world had created a system where vaccine manufacturing existed only in certain countries, primarily in the high-income countries in North America and Europe, with a big representation as well of global health vaccines, in particular in India and China. What we found is that during the pandemic, the normal systems for distributing those public goods around the world failed. They failed in a massive kind of way. And we still don't know the true cost of the pandemic. It's estimated in the trillions of dollars. And we can't really begin to count the lives and the social benefits that were lost as a result of the pandemic. I mean, just thinking about years that children were not in school will have dramatic and generational effects on people around the world. So as we now think about a way to prevent that, we come to the discussions that we've had today. And I think that listening first to the people from Africa CDC, they have a vision for moving Africa forward, not only for vaccines, but for other pharmaceutical agents as well, and across the entire value spectrum. So starting, as we say, from innovation, going all the way to impact. And it's that kind of vision that is going to be necessary in order to ensure that vaccines manufactured in Africa come from an informed research and development activity also based in Africa, and that the vaccines can be approved by African regulatory authorities and then ultimately be used and purchased and used to prevent disease in Africa, but also elsewhere in the world. I think we're making progress. It's going to require a lot of work that we need to do together. And I think that this session has really highlighted the efforts of different groups, different countries, organizations, and companies that are committed to making this a reality. And so thank you very much. And again, I'm sorry that we didn't have time for questions, but I think that we'll have adequate time in the hour to follow. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerome. And thank you to all the speakers for all these insightful presentations. And so this concludes today's proceeding. And now we invite all of you to join us for a networking cocktail reception that has been organized outside the room. So thank you very much, everybody.